third quarter, man. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets a little bit, JJ. I know you kind of brought them up. You know, it's not really a lot to talk about unless we want to speak on disappointment. But I really wanted to target the two moves that were made. Brooklyn moving Kyrie out to Dallas and, KD to Phoenix. First of all, is this whole Brooklyn experience the biggest disappointment in NBA history to you?
It's one of the bigger disappointments. They weren't able to win a title, and they had the talent to do so. I don't think they even reached the conference finals. I think they got the closest they got to was the conference semis when they ended up losing to Milwaukee. But only playing, 60 or 70 games together was a disappointment. They also added James Harden in the mix and still really couldn't do anything. It might actually be the biggest disappointments because for a long time I thought that 2012, 2013 Lakers team was a disappointment. But they actually made the playoffs. This Nets 3 or 4 years didn't even get to the conference finals. So I think they are one of the bigger disappointments of all time. And it was just sad to see because you had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, then they added James Harden thinking they were going to do so much. And a lot of times they didn't even get on the floor together. So it might actually be the biggest disappointment of all time.
Yeah, when you think about it for what it was worth and the potential and the expectation, like, I can't really measure anything else up. I would put up there the Lakers when they had, Karl Malone and Gary Payton when they were really stacked and they lost to Detroit. I felt like that was probably one of the biggest disappointment all-time history in the NBA. But this right here, because again, you guys are projected to maybe repeat, like a dynasty could be formatted with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. And the way that thing went down, like they just never even gave themselves a real chance to make anything happen. What do you think about Kyrie Irving joining Luka in Dallas? Do you think that's just a rental, or do you think Kyrie could possibly be there to stay in Dallas for a while?
I love this trade because it finally gives Luka a running mate. And I think if they do well enough, if they win one playoff round, I think Kyrie Irving would be convinced. Now, they have to pay him, of course, and I think Dallas has the money. I don't know. I don't think they've paid Luka the money that he deserves yet. I don't think they have, but
not yet.
But imagine a team with Luka and Kyrie. I mean, I really like that team, and I think that team can be formidable for the next few years because, again, it finally gives Luka, because Luka hasn't really had any help. I mean, he had Porzingis early on, but you could definitely tell Porzingis didn't like being the number 2 or the Robin to Batman. So I love this move here because I think Kyrie is talent-wise, he's still a top 5 point guard, and
Absolutely.
it's going to be interesting to see how they do the point guard situation because I think they're going to have Luka at the 1 or Kyrie at the 2. They could do both, but they could do both. I mean, and then if Kyrie's not playing or Luka's not playing, the one guy or the one person can lead this team. I love this move, and I think Dallas can get pretty far with Kyrie Irving and Luka, at least after this year. And I think if as long as Kyrie stays happy and he gets his paid, I think he's going to be there for a bit.
What about defense? Because even with Kyrie and Luka playing at the elite levels, they are both suspect defensively, and especially as a unit, as a backcourt. Do you have any concern, even though you like the trade, do you have any concern defensively that could cause a problem once we get into April and May?
I think it will be a bit of a concern, but I just think the way this could end up going, this could go very well. Now it could all explode. I mean, something might happen and he might not like it and leave, and it'd be technically a waste, and Brooklyn would have won that trade. And yes, the defense is a problem, but I feel like the upside could be bigger than the downside is what I'm trying to mention here. So
I got you. Now, we talked about help and support systems for Luka. Last year he had a little bit of help from Jalen Brunson. That was pretty much his breakout season. And I think they went to the Western Conference Finals last year, right? And on paper, you would say that Kyrie is better than Jalen Brunson. So that's definitely a good help on paper. Do you think that the baggage that Kyrie Irving brings is going to be a problem for the culture of Dallas? Because mind you, JJ, the owner, Mark Cuban, who is Jewish, had a issue with Kyrie and the whole documentary thing back then. I mean, I saw Mark Cuban go on interviews and kind of talk about Kyrie Irving. Do you think that could actually wind up being a problem long term before the season ends, as far as the baggage that Kyrie, quote unquote brings to a team locker room.
Yeah, it could be. I didn't know that whole Mark Cuban thing, but it could be a problem for the Mavs. And it is nice though that Kyrie Irving has a relationship with Jason Kidd, and yes, it could go all poorly. And if Luka or if, Kyrie Irving doesn't get his way, things could get very ugly. But I don't know if Kyrie has learned his lesson, but if he learned or if he really learned his lesson from earlier on back in it was October and November, I think this could go very well. Now, again, it could all go bad. Problems could happen. He could end up leaving and it would be a loss. But you saw, like I said, I forgot about Jalen Brunson. When Jalen Brunson and Luka were together and they made the conference finals. And I just think this could, the upside, there's so much good that can happen from this. So it could be a problem, but I just think, if they play well together and as long as Kyrie and Luka are good friends, I think this could go very well for the Mavs.
Now, you brought up a name that I think is very important that a lot of people have not really spoke on, and that's Jason Kidd. Do you think this is an opportunity of a lifetime for Coach Kidd to really break out as being the next big thing, after Steve Kerr? Is this Jason Kidd's opportunity to really show what he has if he's able to pull this off with Luka and Kyrie?
I think it could be. Like you said, he coached, I think it was in Milwaukee and Brooklyn, and that didn't last very long. And if he can do well here in Dallas and he can get a relationship between Kyrie and he can I think he already has a pretty good relationship with Luka, it seems like this could go well for Kidd. I don't know if he could be as successful as Steve Kerr, because Steve Kerr has been very good, 4 championships in a span of 8-9 years. So
yep.
I think this could go well. And I don't know if he could get to the Kerr status, but if he can at least get to a title or win a title, that would put him in the elite status for coaches. Definitely. Yeah.
U754 said Luka is deferring to Kyrie isn't a good sign. And that was one of the big things. That's key that you brought that up, 754. That was one of the things that I saw when they first got the opportunity to play with each other. You see, when they wasn't able to even get a shot off because Kyrie was trying to defer to Luka and vice versa. How soon do you think they'll be able to get that part of the game together in your eyes, JJ? Do you think they'll be able to get that part squared away sooner than later?
It might take a bit, but I feel like they have to get this together very quickly because, again, they have basically half the season before the postseason begins. And this Mavs team needs to win a playoff round, I think, to really build on the next year. Because I don't think they're going to the title this year. I just don't think they have enough firepower. And plus, they don't have the chemistry yet. Okay. But I feel like it might take a bit, but they have to do something because in order to win that playoff round, they got to get some chemistry. And it seems like there's a bit of a chemistry already, but I feel like they need to get this pretty quickly. I think it might take a bit, though.
Okay. Anthony said he feels like they should be able to get it done before the playoffs. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. Mm-hmm. Let's shift gears to the Kevin Durant side of things. Kevin Durant was traded. He's moved over to Phoenix to play along with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. What was your reaction when you found out that Kevin Durant was actually moved, and how much of an impact does that have with Phoenix now in the Western Conference in your eyes?
Well, I was shocked because they didn't have to trade any of their alt. They didn't have to trade Chris Paul. They didn't have to trade DeAndre Ayton, which DeAndre Ayton I think is still underrated in this part. But I was a bit shocked, and they did have to give up a lot of picks. But as long as they're still going to be this good, those picks will be later, so they won't really have as an impact unless it was a lottery pick. So I like this trade a lot. I don't know if they can make the finals this year because I think they still have about 3 more years, because I think Durant after this year, what's a 3-year contract I think he'll have left?
Yeah, he still has a few years left on his contract. So I think it'll be this year that we're playing it now, and I want to say 2 more after that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was a bit surprised, but I was kind of, how aggressive Matt Ishbia was, and he hadn't even been the owner that long, to make that type of trade. And to give up they gave up Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder. They gave up, who else gave up? But they gave up multiple draft picks for him. And again, they didn't have to give up an all-star, which was kudos on the Suns' part. But I think I really like this trade a lot. And if the Suns don't make it this year, there won't be as much pressure, but they're going to have to get at least win 1 title out of this.
So Phoenix to you is not the favorite to represent the Western Conference this season?
I think right now, no, just because Kevin Durant is still hurt. But
Okay.
once he comes back, I think they will be one of the favorites. But I just don't know if there'll be enough time for them to make it all the way, just because I don't know where Durant's health is in this point. But I think once he gets healthy, they will be one, if not the favorite.
I want to read off to you, JJ, a statement by Kevin Durant. You know, he has not played yet in a Phoenix Suns jersey,
Mm-hmm.
but he was asked at a press conference about his future. And I want to read off to you what he said, and you let me know what you thought of these comments. So, Kevin Durant on his future, he says, I'm having a good time at the moment, and I can see myself being here for the rest of my career. However, who knows? I said the same thing about Brooklyn. Now, in all reality, he's right. You know, he's being honest, he's being transparent, so I can respect that. But if you are a fan of the Phoenix Suns, do you have a problem with KD kind of giving the indication that he's not going to be committed long term? I mean, we know this is business, but do you feel like the timing is off for this type of comment, or is it no big deal?
If I was a fan, I'd be a bit worried. But I mean, even if he only plays there 3 years and they get a title, I think that was worth it.
Okay.
But Durant has been with a lot of teams now, so I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves Phoenix. But I feel like if you get one of those titles, it's worth it. And I feel like they need to at least win a title for this to be a success, I feel like. But I think if I was a fan, I'd be a little nervous or be a little worried. But if you win a championship, it's all worth it, right? So I would be a little
Absolutely.
worried. But I mean, if you win a title, you win a title. So
Because I don't know when the last time that organization won a championship. If have Phoenix
no,
ever won an NBA title?
they've been, I think, the two in '93 with Barkley, and then they went 2 years ago and lost to Milwaukee. So no, they haven't won a championship ever.
So he's trying to get that ring for Chris Paul. That'll be instrumental, definitely. Um, wow. Yeah, man. I just don't like it. You know, that's Kevin Durant. You know, he's going to be transparent. He's going to speak his mind, so I can respect that. And you know, I don't feel like he said something wrong. But if I just got Kevin Durant on my team, I really don't want to hear you talking much about Brooklyn, and I damn sure don't want to hear you giving any type of light about you not being in my locker room for as long as possible. So, you know, maybe not a big deal, but that was something that I saw. I'm just like, damn, man, I wonder what the Phoenix fans may feel about Kevin Durant saying that, because it kind of shows to me that he could be willing to, you know, get up and leave a little bit early. How many times have KD actually demanded a trade? I think he played out his contract in OKC and in Golden State, right?
I think it was just in Brooklyn
Okay.
because
Okay.
he demanded a trade in the off season. I think it was in the summer, and then they ended up working something out, and then he stayed, and then of course eventually he got traded. But as of now, I think he's only demanded a trade once, and that was in Brooklyn.
Don't forget, if you guys enjoy daily NBA content, do me a huge favor and subscribe, follow, and like the platform. Peace.
Okay, now AR with the cooler kick. Keep street, we run this shit. Fell back after run it up. Then my last bitch, she was dumb as fuck. Hop out, get the spraying stuff. Cause my last ops wasn't saying nothing. Whole stunting, big pimpin', whole hunting. 38 with the cooler kid in the mall with me like Joe Budden. These hoes front.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.